I'm Bob Williams of Aquascan International, and I'm the manufacturer of the Aquapulse range of metal detectors. What I've got in front of me here for a short demonstration is the standard AQ1B, or also known as the 8-inch kit. Today, for the purposes of the video, I'm actually using the underwater headphones. That's purely because audibly it'll be much more effective for me to have the headphones on there rather than a slim bone phone that normally just goes behind the ear. So that's why we've got a slightly non-standard setup. What I'm going to show you really in this video is the optimum setting for the control unit, and with the head normally held above you when you're underwater, you've got the two controls. You first switch on, which puts the power on, and then we've got a multi-turn threshold control. I'll tell you a little bit more about this switch a little bit later, but initially what we have to do is, now we've turned on, we've got our detector head above the ground, is just bring that steady tick, 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 and that's about the optimum setting. That allows you to just really determine the slightest changes that occur, and you'll notice that shortly when I introduce an object that we're going to use for detection purposes. Coming back to this switch control here, there are other positions on it, but probably 95% of the time you'll not need to even think about using those, because they're only required to back off the amount of conductivity in the sea when you go into really deep water, and maybe using some of the bigger coils where the background starts to increase to a point where you start to run out of range on this multi-turn control. Reason being the multi-turn is it gives us a very, very wide range. So normally on the number one setting there, we get all the range we require out of this setting. So with that, I shall reset this again now to this fairly steady tick, 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 tick. And what I've got to introduce for you is a silver coin that's around about the same mass as a piece of 8. And this is a 400-year-old silver coin, pure silver coin, that came from a Dutch East India wreck in the around about the early 1980s. So with that, I shall introduce it into the range of the coil. It doesn't matter whether I move this relative to the coil or the coil relative to the object, it does the same thing. So bringing this into, you can now immediately hear that subtle increase, and I'm still quite some height above it. It works above and below because the detector really works right through its axis, and same detection above as below. As I get closer, a shallower burial of object, and this really tells you, is it a deeply buried object or a shallow buried? At half the distance, it's extremely more powerful. As we come up towards the fringes of detection, you still note it, but you know that this is something quite small or quite deep. So that it's as simple as that. There's no more to setting this piece of equipment up than just getting that nice steady threshold, and then really passing over the ground and just looking for those subtle changes, and then trying to home in onto it by finding the actual peak that you get, the highest rate that you get. And normally one direction, the other direction, you're almost drawing across, and really being able to center where you're actually going to start excavating. The equipment is no more complex than that to actually operate, and really it's only a matter of getting familiar with actually using it underwater, practicing, being aware of the fact that in salt water adjustments are more necessary than in fresh water or on the beach, land detection, etc. You don't have the salt water conductivity to deal with. You've simply got to adjust it once, and really that threshold will stay quite constant. Underwater, changing depths, particularly in shallow water, going off reefs, dropping into deeper water, you will have to readjust the threshold. This is normal. You get a more background signal from the salt water, and you simply back it all off. And that's about all I need to tell you at this stage. We will be doing further videos that introduce the other accessories, the larger coils, the smaller coils, even down to a coil that you can put inside your glove, and the special applications for those. But the same principle applies right through the range. Beyond this, there's a lot of useful information in the operator's manual. Hopefully you will read that, including how to look after it and a couple of servicing checks that you can do to make sure the battery's healthy, etc, etc. But really, that completes this short video. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll catch us on some subsequent videos.